Hello, hello, hello. It is Fun Day Monday, and it is 5:14, no, 15 now, on June 3rd. Tomorrow is the 4th, not June, I'm sorry, it's July 3rd. Tomorrow is the 4th of July. Whew, you ready? You ready? Some people have probably already started popping fireworks and doing what they're going to do to celebrate the 4th of July. So I'm not mad at you. But this episode, I want to talk about something that I didn't really want to talk about, but I want to talk about it. But okay, so I'm going to give people time to get in. This is the Adroit Living session on Erudition Network. In Adroit Living, we like to, talk about adroit living, things that, have you living clever and skillful, doing some things kind of like out of the box, but, you're still within the norm because you got to know what the norm is to know you even outside of the box. So sometimes we don't have the funds or the means to, purchase the things or acquire the things that we want. So we make do with what we have, and that suffices us as as good as something that we would have purchased or some manufacturer, big manufacturer would have produced for us. And it's a lot of people out here living adroit lives and making millions and billions of dollars doing it. It's a lot of people on TikTok and they're showing you how they're living adroit and how they're being discovered and how they're doing things that's bringing in a major income. Whereas before the pandemic, these things would not have even been an opportunity because they would not have realized it when their backs weren't up against the wall. So a lot of times, a lot of things happen in the unorthodox way because that's really the norm. And it's abnormal to be in the box, but we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there. I'm taking it a little slower today. If you've been watching my shows, then you know I'm taking you somewhere, and that somewhere is to help you to have um, the understanding when you're thinking in a conditioned way, whereas um, the times that we've been in, we have been living in an unconventional way, unconditioned mental uh, mindset and conditioned systematic way. We're doing things more so back to the natural way that it used to be before somebody came along and said, "Hey, this is orthodox. Let's do this. Let's do that." And now that we're doing things in a more unorthodox way more often than not, we're starting to streamline that to make it orthodox. And the problem is with orthodoxy, it's like you can't get out of it. It's like having a label and you can't get from up under that label because people are always going to throw that label back at you and say, "Hey, aren't you such and such?" No matter what you do, you're going to have that label. But you're not you don't have to conform to what that label means. You can always activate your um, title and you can be under your title or whatever label people put on you and make it new, make it you. That's why everybody has their own individual name because you're not stuck at being the name that you are called. You're not stuck at being the label you are called. You are manufacturing that in a different way, no matter who you look like, no matter who hired you, no matter who's putting you under their wings and saying, "Hey, I'm going to bring you under my wings and you're going to do exactly what I do and where you're going to make millions of dollars." It's different ways to do things. And I've seen where some people have followed the path of the person who brought them in, and then they're unable to feel the footsteps of those people, and then they're lost. And they're like, "Well, I don't know what to do because now not only did I take that person's place, but now that person is dead and gone, and I can't be that person. I can't fulfill the need the way that person did." But that's why we're all born for the time in which we're going into, not the time that we're in, regardless of who it is that gets us in the positions that they put us in. You're not stuck or bound to that particular label. That's unorthodox. Oh no, unorthodox. That's a bad name. It puts a bad taste in people's mouth. But it's really not a bad name. It's not a bad label. It's not something that's negative. What it is to say is anomaly. And that's not a bad word either, and it's not a bad thing. It's to say that you have the ability to critically think and use what you have to make it what you need it to be, so that you can do the things that you desire to do, or have the things you desire to have. And oftentimes we want peace, mental peace, things that'll bring us, and put us into a position of mental um, well being. So let's get into it. Okay, so I wanted to give people time to get in. So I'm just going to go ahead and get into it. I know I'm late, and sometimes that happens. Crap happens. Life happens. Now I've been hearing about how African American women are being attacked in everything that they do everywhere. And it's like there's no other culture right now, or gender and culture, that's under attack more than the African American woman. And there's a lot of complaints talking about how the African American woman doesn't have a head, or that the men in their culture aren't the head of them. Now, I know this is probably going to sound really crazy, but you know, and I've heard a lot of men say, well, even the men don't stand up and, do anything for their culture, and stay united in doing that. I wanted to say something, and I know it sounds crazy, but it's like a lot of people have been trying very hard to say things like, Jesus, what color Jesus was, and what culture he's from, or whatever. But this is the thing about that: regardless of what culture he was unorthodox in everything he did. He was like a boss. I mean, he had a stepfather, and his stepfather, he could only do so much, and Jesus would always get away from the orthodoxy in which he was supposed to be under. And in doing so, he learned a lot of different things. And in those different things, he was the head of the unorthodox. Now, I don't want to say that he was a particular culture, or being, or whatever, but I want to definitely point out that there's a lot of people from different cultures, different genders, different ages that are unorthodox. And it's not to say that it's a bad thing, but to say that those people are really they're marking the steps of the righteous man, the person who did what was right all the time. And it wasn't that, when one of the things that I noticed, I'll start with that, was how Jesus did things with children and women, and that was unorthodox. And he did things with people who were sick and bound with illness, demon possessed, all kinds of things that orthodoxy was just like not going to touch. And if it wasn't for that unorthodox behavior, those problems would have persisted. The things that needed to be done would have been left undone. And the problem with that is, if we all know the system, orthodoxy, is broken, is something wrong with it, then are we also subscribing to ourselves also being wrong, because we know it's wrong, but we're going to keep on following it and call it orthodox, call it system, call it whatever way you want to justify wrong, and then turn around and listen to everybody say, make it make sense. But you can't make it make sense, because though it's orthodox, it doesn't make sense. There's no logic to it. And because there's no logic to it, a lot of people are attacking those people who have any kind of logic. And oftentimes it's a lot of people putting emphasis on African American women being the voice of reason, and saying things like, nah, that don't make sense. Look, I don't have time for that. Look, your math isn't math. And they're coming up with these little really clever ways of saying, I don't have time for that. I'm not trying to hear that. I'm not following that. And they're bringing along with them like-minded people who would have otherwise been comfortable following orthodoxy. And, as long as they're around all the other lemmings jumping off the cliff, they're fine in that comfort of jumping off that cliff. But, some people, when they come around those lemmings and they say, look, that doesn't make sense because there's ample land here Why would we keep going in this direction knowing that we're going to fall off this cliff? We're going to literally jump off of this cliff just at the momentum that we're going, period. So it's not to say that there aren't other women in other cultures doing the same thing, but it is to say that because the African American woman is more liberal with her culture, because she is made of a lot of different cultures all at once, and the only culture in the world who is of all the cultures of the world. You can go and do your ancestry and find out and see what I'm talking about. But when I did my ancestry, I found out that I'm a part of everything but probably Korea. I don't know, but I looked and I was like really surprised, and I thought about it. I was thinking that no matter what I do in this life, I'm going to be unorthodox because there is no other culture in this world that's comprised of everybody. How do you do that? Well, we know how it happened. This the 4th of July month, and then before that, Black History Month, and then before that, Juneteenth. So we know how that happened, but we're failing to acknowledge that. And in doing so, we're allowing a whole culture of people to feel like they're bastardized because somebody in the history thought, let's get together and let's make a melting pot and let's make this our Olympics. And the Olympics was created so that we can be united in something that's not relevant to war and politics and the things that we don't like, because it's sports. It's naturally competitive. We decided at some point in America and all around the world to come to America so that we could be this melting pot, so that we could say, hey, let's start with something better than what we are now. And in doing that, they didn't think of it, I don't think, that they were making a whole different culture of people. But this one thing that they did understand, they wanted the best parts of themselves to live on and to prosper and to have a voice in this world that will last for eternity or for all the existence of this world. And in doing that, you have a whole culture called African American people. And the woman is under attack because she doesn't know her strength. She don't know her power. She don't know who she is. And who she is she's the nurturer. She's the provider. She's the one that's birthing nations. She's the one that is nurturing nations. She's the one whose voice that people are going to hear because she is a part of all of them. And because of that, she loves all of them. And it hurts her dearly to see anybody that she's a part of fighting over frivolous things, over insignificant, over, the most insignificant details. And there's somebody out here that's like, we got to get rid of all these black women. We got to get rid of all these African American women, and we have to attack them. But the thing is, historically, and I'm gonna go back again and refer to the Bible because a lot of people don't like to hear about history, but I'm gonna do both. Historically, in the Bible, when the Pharaoh went and he said, well, I know it's going to be somebody born, not born yet, but someone's going to be born, and that child is going to be a firstborn of that family. So whether that person is born already or coming to be born, I'm going to kill all firstborns. All firstborns have to die. He went and killed all the firstborns, but he still did not touch the person who it was said that it was going to be, that is going to change the world, that he didn't want it to be changed in the way that it was supposed to go and it was going to go. There was nothing that he could do to stop the destiny that was coming to fruition regardless of what he did. And all those things that he put out there was returned to the sender and impacted him in the same way he tried to impact the world. Now, the reason why that's relevant is because we've seen it time and time again in history since then, that we've seen, people who are saying, well, I'm going to attack all the black women and all the African American women and silence their voices. They're going to go back in time and they're not going to have a voice over their body, over their property, over their children, over anything that they, they right now have the ability to have the voice over. Because at one point we had to graduate to that level. And that was because the various cultures and the tribes of people, that's the way they felt they were protecting their women. And that's why that was the fact. But there were people who got together and said, you know what, I don't like that. We don't agree with that. Let's go somewhere where that can be different, where we can change that. A whole land where we can do something different, something better, something bigger than what we're doing right now, because we're not happy as a collective doing it this way. And okay, yes, definitely let us know if you're joining us. And if you have questions, if you want to comment, this is an interactive show. So definitely feel free to comment. Hit me in them comments. Let's have a discussion about this. Okay, so what I was saying about the silencing the voice and silencing the abilities that are just normal to free will that God gave us all, and it's innate in us all. You can't silence people from saying that they want to change their gender no more than you can change their free will to say that they're going to silence all the African American women in the world. These impossibilities are, or back in, let's go back even further, when they said that they were going to change having African people to be a part of the world, and they're going to do all they can to do genocide, sex them out, and breed them out, and it's just so many ways in the history where we have seen that we as people do not have the ability to alter what God innate in us people as a whole. So to continue down that road to say, we're going to silence and we're going to eliminate and we're going to control these things that we cannot control is madness. And I don't want to sit silent about that anymore, because you cannot control these things. And you're only driving yourself to a dark mental space when you can't control it. How about this instead? How about love what's happening, those people, and contribute to what it is that's positive about it? So that'll be what you see grow and develop and flourish. How about, instead of saying, well, I don't really want to hear women having a choice over, being a minister or reaching souls or having any say over their body or, anything that, women and have the ability to do now, because you're not stifling them. What you're doing is altering how they communicate. And you're altering how fast desirable change takes place, because it's all inevitable. It's all inevitable, and it's not going to stop. What it's going to do is put you in a position where you might have been able to be more happy and prosperous from being a part of it, as opposed to not being a part of it and it being more of a detriment to you because you weren't a part of it. You weren't on board with it. You were on board with stifling people. You were on board with making people feel like, oh, I can't be anything if you're something. I can't be heard if you're supporting me. If you're saying, well, that doesn't make sense, let's try it a different way. I can't be great because if you have any say in it, it's going to be logical, it's going to be nourishing, it's going to make sense, it's going to be prosperous, not for the time being, but for the long haul, for generations. Now, there was this thing that I've been avoiding saying too much about, because I didn't want to offend people. But this is the thing. The church or faith in God and academia, they are the biggest global communities in this world. They're the biggest communities in this world that exist through generations and have been in existence no matter what comes and what goes. And at the same time, they're the furthest ones apart in the whole world. You have industries that have come together and merged and did some things, but these two communities have yet to really bond and take lead on the things that they are definitely capable of doing because they touch everything in the world. Everybody that attends school and attends a religious structure of whatever sort, they touch every music genre, every industry, service, industrial. They're everywhere because in these two organizations, it's everyone. It's everybody. You can go into a school and you can find somebody from everywhere in this world. You can go into a institution of faith and you'll find some of everybody in this world, to include the devil. I'm just saying, you'll find some of everybody in these two areas and in the vicinity of these areas. And that's because no matter what, these are the grassroots. These are the roots of who we are and what we'll always be, no matter how we interact, no matter what we produce in this world. And if these two places were to be called a culture, it will be like saying African American people. Why? Because they're comprised of everybody. Because no matter what you do, no matter what label you put on it, this is what it is. It's faith and education. Faith and education. It is the better parts of the foundations of who the people are, and they're in one person, one culture. That culture is the very culture that people somewhere, everywhere around the world got together and said, look, let's do this, and this is what it is. But at the same time, because we're saying things that go against that better mind, it's not to say that, all the other cultures, individual tribes and things um, were not good or not better. It's just to say that they said, look, what we're going to do is we're going to get together and create something. Like when two people get together and they love each other and they say, well, I don't care about your flaws. I don't care about your imperfections. I love you, whether our faith, our education, our work history, whether our lineage is lined up or not. You are who I love. I'm going to love you. And we're going to get together and we're going to produce something from this love. And that is going to be the better part of us. It's not to say that it's to replace us, but it's a part of us so that no matter what happens to our tribe, no matter what happens to our namesake, no matter what happens to us individually, we have come together as a whole and we're still represented somewhere. We're still out here. So even if someone in institution of faith goes to a institution of industry of work or music or whatever, they're still taking this part of their faith with them. They're still a part of that. And it's not to say that everybody can't be great. It's to say that there's one where everybody is represented. And in that, we should not be attacking that because we're attacking ourselves. We're attacking our individuality at the same time. So it just stands to reason that the very thing that we feel like we're attacking so that we can alter the destiny, we're not. What we're doing is we are not allowing ourselves to be a part of the celebration for when this inevitability transpires. And I don't know about you, but I don't want anybody to be in the shade, not enjoying the celebrations when women, those unorthodox African American women that everybody seems to be attacking and saying, well, you can't be a minister. You can't go out here and have your voice heard. You can't have control and choice over your body, over your property, over your children, over the people you love. The very nations that you're birthing and nourishing and manifesting into existence, you have no voice over. You have no control over. You can't love them unless we say you can. And even in that, you're limited to how much love you can give, how much love you can be seen giving. Now, there's a time when some people said, a woman, if she has a son, she got to let him go and let him go be a man, and she can't be around him all the time. But then, the way the system was, the men in various cases were, for whatever reason, the choices that they had to make in order to help their family landed them in a situation where they had to be apart from their family. So the women had to raise the men, and they refused to let those men go based on illogical concepts like, oh, well, you're a woman, you got to let the man be a man. That's not being heard. Nobody's adhering to that. Just like people, were unorthodox because when they were in the institution of faith, they had premarital sex, and that led to a baby out of wedlock. And now you have an assimilation to the world, but it wasn't. It's just the matter of the fact that it's being brought to light that this was what it is. It's not to say that institutions of faith, the institutions of school are different than everything outside of those two arenas, because it's not. It's comprised of those things, and you can't be set apart of it. You are a part of it. It's just a matter of the light that we shed on it. People say we're in unprecedented times. We're not in unprecedented times. These are the same things that were going on, but they were behind closed doors. They were going on, and it was a hush-hush thing that it was happening. The January 16th was not necessarily a surprise to a whole lot of us because we knew that this was happening. And when Trump got in office, he said he's going to expose a lot of these things that are happening, and he's going to make it so that it's not hush-hush anymore. And that rolled the dice, and it started the ball to roll, a domino effect that led to a whole lot of things that we would like to disclaim is going on. We can't, because now it's brought to the light. And all of those who are sitting idle in silence, the silence is going before you against you in favor of all the madness that's transpiring that you knew was happening, but it was done behind closed doors, or it wasn't very much light shed on it. So it was like, oh, it's not happening. Oh, it's in the closet. Let's keep it in the closet. Oh, let's just work something out. So, that didn't really happen, but it did happen, and we all know it. And it's like, it wasn't hurting people in the way that it's now hurting them out loud. It was hurting them in silence, where they at least had their dignity so that they can walk out in public and hold their head up and say, yeah, I just got the crap beat out of me behind closed doors, but now we're in the public and I'm going to shine like gold. But really, I'm hurting, I'm torn down. And it's been going on for so long that it's put us in a mental dark space where people are deciding the only way to end it is to be fatal in the decisions that we make, then turn around and inflict that fatalism on ourselves and end it all for those people we ended it for and ourselves. And because that's not the way that we really want things to go, this unorthodox mindset is spreading. It's spreading because people are saying, look, I'm not going to be fatalistic to myself or others because I actually care. There's some part of me that cares about this person, even though this person I'm told not to care about, even though this person I'm told they're different, even though this person I'm told stay away from them. Somehow, some way, I got around this person, and this person is so freaking awesome, I can't stay away. Now I'm addicted to being around this person. And I'm thinking that addiction is something that I can't let go. So I'm going to be around this person, even though I'm not necessarily attached to them in any other way other than being friends with them, other than being cool with them, other than us having the same mindset and getting along. But this unorthodox method of living is being challenged. And if somebody's going to say, hey, you can't take this away from me because I like this freedom. You can't take this away from me because I understand better now that I can see things in the open. I can see things in the open now because now the blinders are off because I'm tired of feeling this dark mental space, this clouding every happiness that I have. And no matter how many people are in the party, no matter how many people are around me, supporting me, loving me, I can't let this go. I can't keep going down this road because there's something pulling at you. There's something aching in you. And because now we are really all more a part of one another than it's ever been before, we can't do these things behind closed doors anymore. We can't act like we didn't see what was happening because it was halfway around the world or on the other side of the coast or the other end of the coast. We can't turn a blind eye to it anymore because it's illogical. Because when we see them, we see ourselves, we see our kids, we see, that's somebody my kids got to know some kind of way. Some they interacted with this person, and they're watching their TikToks. They're interacting with them on the phone. They're interacting with them through video games. They're interacting with them, and these voices that were kept in the closet are now given a microphone, and you can't take that away because it's going to happen no matter how you try to prolong it. Like I said, that's a good question. Unorthodox is a system. A system sets structure where it says, this is what you're going to do. These are the rules. Follow them. No matter what you do. It's like being in the military and they give a foot soldier orders and say, don't question me. This is what we're going to do. These are the orders. And because you're a soldier, you're going to follow. And if you don't follow, it's insubordination or unorthodox. And you're going to reap the consequences of maybe going to Leavenworth or getting embarrassed or whatever it is. You're going to be disassociated from the group, and everybody is going to know it because now you're going to be labeled in a way that you're going to be embarrassed to show your face. No one's going to want to be bothered with you because now you have this bad label. But it's not necessarily a bad label to be unorthodox because a lot of people, especially those military type people, they saw that, look, the stuff you're trying to do is so bad, I cannot follow this. The orders that you have, I can't follow this. So now I have to be unorthodox, even though I'm going to be set apart from everybody else. I'm going to be outside of the box because I can't follow what you're doing. Everywhere you're doing, everything you're doing, it goes against everything that's innate in me. And I don't understand why I'm having these sleepless nights. I don't understand why I'm angry all the time. I don't understand why I'm restless, why I can't find happiness and contentment. Hey, sis, I'm happy you here. Look, unorthodox is not necessarily a bad title because Jesus didn't fit in that orthodox. He was born, everybody knows, he was born to be religious. He was born a baby of faith. He was born by mystical faith. So naturally, he's going to be orthodox no matter what he does. But the church, all the religious, all the institutions of faith told him he was unorthodox, and that is the way he went down in history. However, it was still written, follow his footsteps. Why would it be written to follow his footsteps if everybody knows he was unorthodox? He was doing some stuff, and it was like, you did what? You working on the Sabbath day? Now they didn't say you performing miracles and it worked out great and it was desirable, but they did scold him for functioning on the Sabbath. But at the same time, if this is what he's doing and he's saying, I'm doing the right thing, then unorthodox, it can't be a bad label. You're in good company. Like I said before, Einstein, they said he was too stupid to be in school. Let me tell you the history of school. I try not to say anything bad because I don't want people to misinterpret what I'm saying. School is an orthodox matter of educating. or get or obtain an education. However, it was not the first method. It was not the original method. It was not the original structure. The original structure was more tribal, and everybody in that tribe, the elders, were teaching the young. Everybody. That didn't exclude no. It was everybody, and it wasn't in an orthodox institution or building or structure. This was the way. And somebody decided, when they decided again to make this America and have all this whole culture of Americans, they decided we're going to have an institution that we're going to build, and this is the way we're going to educate them. However, some people felt like that's unorthodox. That orthodoxy is too far from what's right. So they continue to do what we call homeschool. And that's what homeschool was, when the elders of the community taught the young, and everybody pulled together to teach the young and train them in the way that they should go. That's why it's written in the Bible that way. Train them in the way that they should go. And they can't go in the way that they haven't been trained, but there's something innate in us that we can't be trained to do, that teaches us. It's a discernment where we know right from wrong, and that's what we're following. Even though we're told to follow orders, we still have something innate in us that's telling us something. They said I was quiet to be in school. Yeah, and you know what? A lot of people, they went to school and they saw that it was really more of a way to control the future generations. And there's a generational wealth in both school and education, institutions of faith and institutions of learning. There's a generational wealth there that the world has been trying to tap into for a very long time. Now, I'm young enough to have seen a whole lot of things change and take place, but I'm old enough to understand how to provide guided perspective as to where we need to take that information, how we need to manipulate those things that we should have learned, and manipulate that to work for generations, not just the moment. And that is the kind of wisdom that we see in tribes from the elders teaching the young. And then when the young are elders themselves, they're taking along with them everything that the elders before them taught them, and what they've learned on their journey, and all the things that changed in their transition to being the elder, to feed the younger people, both naturally and spiritually and mentally. So we have this chain of actions, this chain of events that's really more unorthodox than orthodox, because the orthodox was really a man-made structure, a man-made order that they want to people to follow so that they can control and manipulate, and they know how to incentivize or motivate or control, conditioning them. And in the very first episode, I talked about conditioning people to do things. You're conditioning people to go against what's innate in them. And then at some point they have this feeling that, man, something's wrong, and I can't deal with it. I don't know what's wrong, but I'm I need to do something about it. And then when they get away from those people who are pulling these strings like Pinocchio, they incentivizing them, motivating them, encouraging them, dissuading them from following what is innate in them to do. It's like COVID came and put the scissors to all of those strings, and Pinocchio was set free, and everybody was able to function and find themselves, search deep inside themselves and find a better way to be themselves. And then the internet came along and blew up even more, and said, well, we're going to create TikTok. Facebook was in, but they created this TikTok, and it was like, man, this TikTok thing is really giving me more of a voice, is allowing me to have this freedom that I didn't think I would ever have. And now all the conglomerations of the different nations and the different cultures and the different genders and the different mentalities, they're all getting together and being creative and doing something that we never thought would happen Even though when we developed this whole concept of America, that's what we wanted to happen. It didn't happen the way they thought it would. It happened on the internet. They said the revolution to be televised. They didn't say on TV. It's the internet, and it's happening, and it's nothing that no one can do to stop it. Because if you look at history, whenever anybody tried to stifle progression, it always ended bad, and it always led to having the progression to catapult into a direction that fast forwarded the progression as opposed to letting it take its natural course. That's why when we say African American women are unorthodox, what we're really saying is we can't control her. We can't stifle her. We can't stop her. And if we don't stop her, she's going to get everybody who she's connected with to be in alignment with this whole ideology of unorthodox behavior. And we won't be able to control nobody else either. So we got to stifle her. We got to attack her. We have to even use our own people to attack her and keep her down and keep her underfoot. But this is the thing. This is the thing. You can't do that because she is everybody. She is every culture. She's African. She's Russian. She's Hindu. She is Taiwanese. She is Lebanese. She is everybody. She's Indian. She's Creole. She's everybody. And something about her is comprised of all of those nations. And because of that, when you do anything to her, you're also doing it to yourself. How often do you think you can hurt yourself and get away with it? Let's get into a more positive mental space. Let's join together and stop saying all the things we don't like and nourish the things that we like. And stop telling women, oh, you can't keep asking if it makes sense. Oh, you can't do what you are innate to do. And you can't have the platform that you should have, and you can't go and be a minister. You can't go and preach. You can't go into these schools and teach in these schools. You can't go into these institutions of faith and teach in these institutions of faith. And you can't go out here and have the best business industry-wise and music-wise. You can't do that because, yes, you can. And you're going to support it, even if it's not you, it's somebody that looks exactly like you. Why? Because that's a part of her too. That's her too. And just because you don't want something to happen doesn't mean it's not going to happen. It just means you won't be a part of it. And if you're not a part of it, you can't celebrate with them. And if you can't celebrate with them, and you know celebration is inevitable because change is inevitable, you want to be a part of the party. You want to be a part of the celebration. You want to be a part of the victory. Even if you didn't contribute to it, you still want to be a part of the party. And you don't want to be there feeling guilty about your contribution to strike against more than to build for. Now they say a woman, a good woman builds her house, and a bad one tears it down. The same could be said for any gender. A wise person, period, sees change is coming. Inevitability is happening. Where do you want to be? Do you want to be on the end where you're reaping everything you sow, like the Pharaoh when he tried to kill everybody in order to stifle the one that would take everything into a positive direction, and he wouldn't be the one who everybody is accrediting for that? Or do you want to be a part of those people who said, look, that's just not one. This is all of us. Stop letting the minority voices that speak against the majority of people being happy be what leads everybody to feeling uncomfortable, because we don't want to look at those people and shun those people and say they can't join the party when we finally celebrating. Thank you. Thank you. Feel free to comment. If you have alternating opinion or perspective, comment. I've not been here since Jesus was born and before. I'm just learning from those times in history, marking what those things and those events did, and understanding what I see is a cycle. It's a season, and when the season for celebration comes around, it's no need to have those people just that was shedding darkness and spewing venom. It's no need for us to sit there and say, "Man, I wish you could join the party, but your head ain't right, your behavior ain't right, you ain't right. Get yourself together." And even though in your wrong, yeah, you were wrong for a time, but you can operate in a positive way with that negative label and still join the party. Now, I'm not saying join the party at the last minute when everybody's like, when people are under attack and you used to watch those cowboy movies or karate movies or whatever the movie was, and everybody's out there like Nicolas Cage, he's out there doing all the work, and then here comes the cavalry, and now everything's done. We're sitting here licking our wounds, and here comes the cavalry. Here comes the people who were spitting venom, and now they want to join. I'm not saying you're gonna be invited. I'm not saying you're gonna be shunned. I'm just saying don't wait till then, because you'll lose a lot in the process, because you're limiting yourself and your ability to be prosperous. Look at history. I'm only reminding you. I didn't create it. I didn't write it. And I'm not saying that I'm so smart that I know everything. What I'm saying is I studied it, I watched it, and I'm saying that mental conditioning goes against what we are trying to do and where we're going to end up inevitably. You can do what you want to do because you have free will. Do what you want to do. What did you say? Everyone can't be saved. Yeah, but the Bible is written that God said that he would, he wouldn't want to see not even one miss out. And the part of that is in all of us, that we don't want to see anybody left out. Like you want to go to the family barbecue? I'm more than willing to bring you to the family barbecue, but you got to show me a reason why both of us won't get kicked out of the family barbecue should I invite you. That's all I'm saying. We can't say that we don't want to invite everybody, but we don't want anybody to feel uncomfortable being in that celebration because of your position before the celebration, because all the things that you lost because you weren't for the desirable changes that the multitude desired to have and manifested, even though you were against it. It's not us, but yeah, but you know what? It's perspective based. And because we can't control, anything, all we can do is operate in love. Hate don't love nobody. Hate is waiting for an opportunity to hate on you. Whether you were together with them and said, "Hey, you know what? We're going to hate on this particular group of people or this person," even just an individual. But now the opportunity to do the same thing to you, for you to reap exactly what you sow, or the harvest of what you sowed, is waiting. Is waiting to come back on you. Why not just love? Because love covers a multitude of sins, a multitude of transgressions, a multitude of things that may have hurt you or harmed you, wronged you, caused you to lose. It's going to cover that because love loves everybody and it's unconditional. Even if at some point in time I didn't like you, I hated you, I hate you every day, but I love you every day. But it's something about you in this day and throughout the day that I hate about you that makes me want to have a distance from you, a safe distance where I don't have to feel the emotions that I feel until I'm able to feel something positive. Then when I'm able to feel something positive, that distance is short, but it's not always. It's a time limit on that where you got to say, okay, well, yeah, I love you, and it was great that we was good on this little limited time, but I can only, tolerate you in small doses. So I'm gonna go back over here. You go over there. We're gonna be good when we get back together again. You don't, you don't have to say, well, I love you and I got to be around you 24/7, be up under you and agree with everything you do and be with you and support, physically support everything you do and everywhere you go. Look, that's a miracle if that ever should happen. But that didn't even happen for Jesus. So that's not even something that's a realistic expectation or a requirement. So we're not going to even focus on that. And oftentimes we are so distracted by these little bitty nuances that we are losing what is more. That's just a little thing. We're losing what's more because we're focused on this little bitty thing. This little bitty thing. I don't have to love everything you do. I don't have to love everything you say. It's like being in a relationship, being in a marriage, and you're like, well, a lot of times that my partner, I don't agree with what they say. Months on end, I don't trust them. I don't love them. Well, love them, but I hate them. But you make it through that. And it's to say that, we could do things in an unorthodox way, but still be orthodox. We could do things and say, well, we got 1 foot over here, 1 foot over there. But when we're doing that, when we're straddling the fence like that, one of those methods are going to win over the other. And I can tell you right now, even if you straddle the fence, you're still picking a side, whether you're going to follow what's wrong, a broken system, and perpetuate all of that darkness that comes along with that broken system and perpetuating that brokenness. Or you're going to realize that change is inevitable, and the way we're changing is to be more unorthodox, more unscripted, more desirable to value the uniqueness, to be more driven to produce and create and be innovative in a way that prospers us in a generational positive manner, then to damn us in a generational manner, being orthodox and perpetuating a brokenness. We don't want to perpetuate a brokenness because it's caused us to be in a space where we're sitting here trying to twiddle our thumbs and figure out, how do we get here? How do we get where? Well, how do we get to such a dark mental space where somebody who is a PhD student, but they're going out here and being evil in a way that has nothing to do with that institution of education that was the irritant. That's where they were irritated. You would imagine that they increased security there. So now they're going to make sure that no harm comes to anybody. But you can't predict that this is where that evil, that darkness that you are perpetuating, that brokenness that you're perpetuating, you can't say that it's going to be exclusive to this one location, because that is not historical. That is not what we are witnessing. That's not what we're living through. You can't say, well, that kid, he's just a kindergartner, and we just going to treat him so terrible to the point where he'll never forget that BS, so that when he's grown and old enough to get a gun, he comes back to that very same school, even though it's not the same people anymore. None of the same people. None of them, not even the same principal, as committed and loyal to their community that they are. They're not even there. But now that person that you didn't think, because you can't predict that. Hate doesn't work like that. It's not exclusive to one thing, and it never will be. There is nothing in history that ever shows that that is a fact. You cannot isolate hate. You cannot isolate the evil, and you cannot predict that it's only going to be exclusive to the target. You can't. But what you can do is see that love has covered a multitude of sins, and the people that have been wronged, and they're loving people, they have forgiven, even without you asking, even without reparations. What's reparations? A repairing of the wrongs. Even without repentance. What's repentance? Being godly sorry and moving on from never doing what that wrong was ever again. Even without that, that love has forgiven and moved on. And only the hate that's still there. They're saying, well, no, you haven't forgiven. You're gonna hurt us. You're gonna do exactly what we did to you. Should you ever get up? Should you ever stop and think about this? Hate feels so good, and this revenge feels so good. This hurt, this brokenness is comfortable. And even in your brokenness, you can find comfort in knowing what's going to happen. Whereas you're afraid that if you love and accept, you're afraid that you'll go back to that mental headspace that you couldn't get out of, that you were like, oh, well, I have to be this way. You don't have to be that way. No one has to be that way. The very same people that you're afraid that's going to do harm to you, it doesn't work like that. Because even historically, it never did work that way. Even with the Pharaoh, when the Pharaoh did all that and everything that came back, everything that he inflicted on the people returned back to him 100-fold, it was not the people. It wasn't the targeted group of people who he targeted that inflicted him in that way. It's an inevitability that no matter what we do, we're going to reap what we sow. So why not sow what's positive, what's love? And even though it can sometimes be unpredictable, it's still far more comfortable than being in a room full of people and being in a mental headspace that doesn't allow you to embrace or be embraced or be loved and accepted. Even though you're getting likes, you're getting all this hype about, it's still a bad mental space because it is dark and the opportunity for light is there because they're a part of you. Even if you don't accept them, they're a part of you. And that part of you is tugging at you, drawing you near, and it's calling for you. And it's saying, I don't care what you did then. Just do better now and continue to do better. Whether you feel like I love you, whether you feel like I forgave you completely, and don't expect me to forget what you did. Don't expect that. But definitely understand that even in my knowing, even in my inability to forget, I still love you because you're a part of me. And even though, sometimes within ourselves when we examine ourselves, there's parts of us that we don't like, parts of us that we even hate, parts of us that we wish don't ever see light of day. But we can't stop loving ourselves because no matter how bad we feel about ourselves and our decisions and the things that we're doing and the things we're thinking, it's still something in us that loves us. Even those people that make fatal decisions for themselves, they still love themselves because they're trying to end their suffering. And they care about themselves, and that's why that is their conclusion. But there's a better solution. There's a better solution, but we can't get there if we're not broadcasting guided perspective that is speaking to those parts of us. And those parts of us that we're speaking to need to be heard from different perspectives, from different people, and definitely from the unorthodox African American woman. Because she loves everybody. And she gonna treat everybody with love, especially because she realizes and recognizes she at some point, in some kind of way, is connected to you because she is every woman, not just one culture, not just one person. She is representing everybody. And that's what we need. That's what we need in this world. We needed that kind of unity. And that kind of unity is inevitable. That kind of unity, even though you are 100% or 99.999% one culture, you're still tied into that African American woman because you're a part of her and she's a part of you. Even if you can't see it, it is what it is. And that kind of unity, that's that love that we're looking for. And that's that love we need to spread and perpetuate to cover the brokenness and get people out of the dark mental spaces that they're in. because that's not the end. That's not the final word. There's better, there's greater, and you could be a part of the celebration. And don't everybody want to be a part of the celebration? Of course you do. Now, that's my time for today. I hope you enjoyed the show. Remember, mental health is physical wealth.